Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Distinguished rectors, academics, members of civil society organizations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all with the most beautiful of greetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. We are gathered here today to hold the 9th of the international congresses organized by ASSAM since 2017. ASSAM aims, through the international congresses it holds every year with broad participation from the Islamic world, to make assessments on academic and political grounds regarding current issues in world politics, particularly in the geography of Islamic countries, to propose solutions to international, regional, and local crises, to identify the institutions necessary for uniting Islamic countries under a single will, and to develop legislative models for these institutions, and most importantly, to present a course of action to the Islamic world and its decision makers. If you pay attention, ASSAM is a strategic research center that differs from similar institutions by conducting thematic studies. In other words, it prepares a multi-year work plan, examines and evaluates the subjects in this plan from a strategic perspective, considering the past, present, and future, and develops corresponding models. Through the international congresses it has conducted so far, ASSAM has developed two main solution models for the establishment of Islamic Union. Within these two main models, there are also several sub-models, some of which have already been implemented. For example, the fast money transfer system and the Troy credit card system were mentioned in ASSAM's reports not under these exact names, of course even before they actually existed. At this point, I would like to commemorate with mercy and gratitude the late retired General Adnan Tanraverdi, the founding president of ASSAM and the visionary behind the idea of conducting studies on the necessity of the Islamic Union and the means of achieving it through a strategic research center. Let me go back a little and talk about the background of some events that I personally witnessed. In doing so, we will also come to understand the founding philosophy of ASSAM. In 1996, during the February 28 postmodern military coup period, General Adnan Tanraverdi was forced into retirement from the armed forces. The 1990s were a time in Turkey when those who wished to live according to Islamic values were severely oppressed. Embracing an Islamic way of life often resulted in being deprived of all public services and official positions. It was in the midst of such a period that General Adnan Tanraverdi was compulsorily retired, simply because he stated that what was being done was unlawful and even illegal. Following his retirement, General Adnan Tanraverdi began to engage in legal advocacy within the framework of civil society activities against these unlawful practices. He was quick to realize that what had happened was the work of external powers exploiting Turkey's internal dynamics, and that similar unlawful practices were being carried out in other Islamic countries as well. After the collapse of the Ottoman Empire following World War I, the leaderless Islamic world became an easy target for global powers. The Western world could take advantage of these easy prey whenever it wished. General Adnan Tanraverdi believed that the solution lay in the reunification of Islamic countries. Initially, he began meeting with opinion leaders, scholars, academics, politicians, and civil society leaders in Turkey, asking the critical question: how could the Islamic Union be established? Later, he expanded this network of contacts to include internationally recognized figures with status in Islamic countries, similar to those mentioned earlier. Everyone he consulted agreed that the way out of the humiliation that had befallen the Islamic world was through the unity of Islamic countries. I witnessed that General Adnan Tanraverdi often posed the question: so, how will the Islamic Union be established? To interlocutors who agreed on the necessity of Islamic unity. Indeed, Islamic jurisprudence fiqh prescribes that the path to unity should be established through the counsel of the qualified Eli Halvel Akd. However, after the era of the rightly guided caliphs, this principle could not be implemented, and the Islamic Union continued for centuries largely through monarchical rule. The answers Adnan Pasha received to his question were more or less the same. there was almost a disbelief that the Muslim Ummah could unite through their own free will and initiative. Amidst all this pessimism, Adnan Pasha recognized that in order to create the Islamic Union and produce a viable solution, one had to work persistently and meticulously, almost like weaving lace. He devoted serious effort and dedication to this endeavor. If we look at the opening speeches of ASSAM congresses in the past, we see that they extensively explain the current fragmented economic, military, and political potentials of Islamic countries, outline the types of threats Muslims face, and attempt to convince the audience of the power they could attain if they were united. But after October 7, 2023, that is, for more than 2 years, the occupation, genocide, and atrocities committed in Gaza, despite the reactions and objections of the entire world, have infuriated not only Muslims but even non-Muslims. Some of our friends even say, 15 years ago, when Adnan Pasha was explaining the ways to achieve Islamic unity, we thought it was a utopia, but now we are fully convinced that there is no other way out and how far-sighted Adnan Pasha really was. On this occasion, I would like to once again commemorate with gratitude and rahmat Mr. Amin Ustan, the founder of Amin Ustan Holding and many other companies, who financed Adnan Pasha and ASSAM's activities for many years. I kindly ask you to recite a Fatiha for the noble souls of all our departed. Yes, ASSAM was founded with exactly this philosophy. I have briefly outlined the process that the founding philosophy of ASSAM went through. I would also like to briefly mention what ASSAM has done for the Islamic unity. ASSAM aims to make assessments on an academic and political basis regarding current issues in world politics, particularly in the geography of Islamic countries, to propose solutions to international, regional, and local crises, to identify the institutions necessary for uniting Islamic countries under a single will and to develop regulatory models for these institutions, and, most importantly, to present a governance model to the Islamic world and its decision-makers. To achieve this goal, ASSAM has established strategic research councils. To briefly mention these councils so as I can use time efficiently: Research and Review Council on the Organs and Legislation of the Union of Islamic Countries, Research and Review Council on Opportunities for Economic Cooperation among Islamic Countries, Research and Review Council on the Environment for Defense and Defense Industry Cooperation among Islamic Countries, Research and Review Council on the Foreign Policy of Islamic Countries, Research and Review Council on the Justice System of Islamic Countries, Research and Review Council on the Common Public Order and Security Organization of Islamic Countries, Research and Review Council on the National Power Elements of Islamic Countries, Research and Review Council on the National Power Elements of Non-Islamic Countries. In total, there are 8 strategic research councils. To achieve this goal, ASSAM has established strategic research councils. Research, analysis, seminars, and Congress activities on the subjects within the research areas of these councils are carried out at an international level. ASSAM carried out the first series of congresses, named the ASRICA Islamic Union Model International Congresses, as 7 international congresses between 2017 and 2023. As a result of this first series of 7 congresses, the path to Islamic unity was designed and modeled to utilize the tools and methods of international politics and diplomacy. These efforts produced 2 distinct example models that could make achieving Islamic unity possible. The first model enables Islamic unity in times of peace, while the second model facilitates Islamic unity during crises or wars, for example, by forming a Gaza peace force and gradually developing it over time. In summary, the entire world agrees that the international system, rather than establishing justice, is in fact the main source of today's problems. Although there are various views on the solution, there is no comprehensive and thoroughly studied proposal like the one put forward by ASSAM. If we take into consideration that nowadays the idea that Islamic countries should also have a political union, and that the options of federation and confederation should be examined is gradually being voiced, it can be seen that ASSAM had been at least 10 years ahead in this regard. Between 2017 and 2023, a comprehensive model titled Model ASRICA Confederation Islamic Union was developed. Within this scope, 2 model proposals were presented for the formation of a union among Islamic countries. It was envisioned that the Islamic Union could be realized under a confederative structure, with regional Islamic Union federations as its members. Taking into account the geopolitical structures of the Islamic world, it was foreseen that 9 regional federations could be established. It was envisaged that these 9 regional federations would unite to form the ASRICA Islamic Union Confederation. The organizational principles and foundations of the Model Islamic Union were established. The organizational structure of the Model Islamic Union was designed, and a model constitution was also drafted for the Model Islamic Union. As a result of the ASRICA International Congresses on the Islamic Unity Model, it was concluded that an Islamic country's parliament should be established, and to enable this, an Islamic Unity Ministry should be instituted within the cabinet of each Islamic country. The Islamic Countries Confederation Declaration, approved by the ASSAM Board of Directors, was also signed in 2017 by 109 NGO representatives, 29 from Islamic countries and 80 from Turkey, and was publicly announced to the global community through the press. In other words, for the formation of the Islamic States Union, it was envisaged that Islamic countries be united under 9 regional federations while preserving their unitary structures, languages, flags, and similar matters, and that these 9 regional federations together constitute the Confederation of the Islamic Union. It was proposed that the model for the emerging Islamic countries confederation be named the ASRICA Confederation of Islamic States. During the series of international congresses held between 2017 and 2023, a model for the Confederation of Islamic States was developed and documented in a comprehensive final report. Additionally, taking into account the provisions emphasized in the papers, a draft model constitution has been prepared for the Confederation of Islamic Countries. Taking into consideration the geopolitical structures of the Islamic geography, it has been envisaged that, as seen on the screen, 9 regional federations could be established. In the ASRICA Model Confederation of Islamic States to be established, the Confederation will be responsible for 5 main fields of activity: justice, defense, defense industry, internal affairs, and foreign affairs. Each regional federation of Islamic states will be responsible for 6 areas of activity: customs and trade, transport and maritime affairs, economy, science, industry and technology, development, culture and tourism. The national states will be responsible for 10 areas of activity: education, finance, health, environment and urbanization, youth and sports, social policies, forestry and water affairs, agriculture and livestock, energy and natural resources, labor and social security. Details regarding these can be found on ASSAM's and the ASSAM Congress's websites in Turkish, Arabic, and English, and printed book editions are also available. Between 2017 and 2023, ASSAM conducted studies on Islamic unity and developed 2 models that make the establishment and management of the union possible. Subsequently, for the period 2024-2027, it has focused on crisis regions, their causes, and potential solutions. Here, I should clarify that we use the term crisis in its popular sense, not in the technical, political science terminology. The main topics of the second series of congresses, to be held over the 4-year period from 2024 to 2027 with the aim of proposing solutions to crises in regions concerning the Islamic world, have been selected as follows: ASRICA Islamic Union Model seeking a solution to the crises in the Middle East and North Africa region. Congress held in 2024. ASRICA Islamic Union Model seeking a solution to the crises in the Europe and Central Asia Turkistan region. Congress today 2025. ASRICA Islamic Union Model seeking a solution to the crises of the Near East Asia and Southeast Asia region. Congress 2026. ASRICA Islamic Union Model seeking a solution to the crises in the East Africa, Southwest Africa, Northwest Africa region. Congress 2027. The series of congresses to be held between 2024 and 2027 has been named the ASRICA Islamic Unity Model Search for Solutions to Crises Congress Series. This year, our Congress hosts participants from 14 countries: Germany, Bosnia and Herzegovina, India, Kazakhstan, North Macedonia, Egypt, Kashmir, Kosovo, Malaysia, Pakistan, Sudan, Somalia, Syria, and Turkey. Our annual international event, usually held in a Congress format, is being conducted this year in a hybrid format combining a summit and a Congress. Following the opening speeches, our esteemed university rectors present among us will deliver their summit addresses, continuing until the lunch break. Tomorrow morning, our keynote speakers will deliver their presentations until around noon. Tomorrow afternoon, our Congress will hold 4 parallel sessions. For these sessions, our scientific committee has accepted 23 papers. As every year, this year's event is being conducted with simultaneous interpretation in 3 languages: Turkish, Arabic, and English. Since some of our participants will join online from abroad while others attend in person, the event is being held in a hybrid format. Additionally, our event is being streamed live on our YouTube channels in all 3 languages. I hope that our efforts will lead to good and beneficial outcomes. For over 2.5 years, an international intervention disguised as an internal crisis has been taking place in Sudan. During this period, international reports indicate that more than 19,000 people have been killed and around 13 million people have been forced to migrate, approximately 4 million of whom have left Sudan. Were the external interventions not conducted secretly, this crisis, one that could have ended long ago, would likely have been resolved already. We believe that if the Islamic countries unite to form a Sudan peace force, the crisis can be brought to a swift end. We constantly mention Kashmir, yet many of us don't even have detailed knowledge of what the Kashmir issue actually is. Just as many of us only relearned about Gaza after October 7th, are we waiting for Kashmir's own October 7th to learn about it? We believe that if Islamic countries unite and intervene in the issue, and if necessary establish a Kashmir peace force to stop the humanitarian crisis, the crisis would come to a swift end. Although China, which has kept East Turkestan under occupation for years, tries to mislead the world public by presenting the issue in the region as a matter of terrorism, it is clear that the real problem is not a security or terrorism issue. On the contrary, the main problem is the struggle of a people whose rights have been usurped to claim what is rightfully theirs. 5 years from now, it is even doubtful whether the Turkish and Muslim identity of the people of East Turkestan, which we could speak about, will still exist. In the Islamic world, the way for Muslims not to be treated as third-class beings, and note, I am not saying third-class humans, but third-class living entities, is through the formation of unity among Islamic countries. This unity can be achieved by creating regional alliances across the Islamic geography, or, as a faster model, by establishing an Islamic country's peace force. Allah Almighty states in the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 214, "Do you think you will be admitted into paradise without being tested like those before you?" Commands. Nowadays, in the crisis regions, a part of the Ummah writhes in pain, wondering when Allah's help will come. The overwhelming majority of the rest of the Ummah, however, merely watch as if they themselves are not the addressees of verse 214 of Surah Al-Baqarah. As ASSAM, we strive to contribute to the realization of global justice, to the establishment of right and law, and to the creation of a lasting system, but in the sight of the divine, I do not know if these efforts alone will suffice to absolve us of responsibility. Our President's visionary and courageous leadership on the Palestinian issue has once again demonstrated to the entire world that Turkey is a country with a voice not only in its region, but also in the conscience of all humanity. At the summit held in Egypt for Gaza, beyond many leaders who presented themselves as representatives of peace, the true address of peace has been Turkey. Even Donald Trump, preparing for the 2026 Nobel Peace Prize, stated that he took as an example the policy of peace and brotherhood he learned from the President of the Republic of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, essentially becoming a disciple of this vision. We attach great importance to ensuring sustainable security in Gaza. We also highly value Turkey's role as the leading country in the Gaza Task Force for a safe, livable Gaza that belongs to Palestinians, and even for the West Bank, that is, for an independent and free Palestine. This issue, which ASSAM's founding president Adnan Tanrıverdi has been working on since 2009, even before ASSAM's establishment, entering the global agenda, is now gratifying from our perspective. According to international law, genocide is being committed in Palestine, and according to Islamic jurisprudence, since it was once Dar al-Islam, it is obligatory to liberate it from enemy occupation. Long live free Palestine! Long live Turkey! Long live the Islamic unity! The Islamic world studies historical successful examples to draw lessons, analyzes contemporary problems, but remains weak in working toward concrete solutions. ASSAM has conducted a 7-year international study on the Islamic world's need for political unity, focusing on a confederative solution model composed of federations, and has developed 2 distinct models. These models have been named the ASRICA Islamic Unity Confederation. Due to the absence of our political unity, we have been unable to intervene in the genocide occurring in Gaza, and our very hesitation to even acknowledge this fact has led masses to repeatedly ask the same question. How can the 2.5 billion-strong Islamic world remain mere spectators to what is happening in Gaza? Doesn't this question break you? We sincerely congratulate, commend, and thank our esteemed President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his valuable team for their dedicated efforts to produce diplomatic, political, and economic solutions to crises affecting the Islamic world, primarily Gaza, Cyprus, Syria, Iraq, Sudan, as well as other countries such as Ukraine. May God grant them clarity of mind and determination, and strength and power in their hands for these noble endeavors. On this occasion, I extend my gratitude and thanks to ASSAM's Strategic Research Councils, all our strategists who have dedicated their efforts, all our personnel who have contributed greatly to this Congress, our Congress stakeholders who have provided us with valuable support, Foundation for Islamic Scholars, Turkish Voluntary Organizations Foundation, the Union of NGOs of the Islamic World, the Association of Justice Defenders, Union of Afro-Asia Universities, and their esteemed presidents, Istanbul, Sabahattin Zaim University, which hosted our Congress, and our esteemed rector, our esteemed Foreign Relations Coordinator, Professor Dr. Ensar Nasansi, and executive board members, Professor Dr. Kagri Yildirim and Professor Dr. Omer Esan, ASSAM's valued members of Board of Directors, our Secretary General Ali Kosar, our distinguished rectors who inspired us with their opening speeches, and all academics who informed us through their presentations, you, our esteemed friends who honored us by coming here, and our followers watching online, I express my gratitude and thanks. Respectfully.